Hello, my name is Adlin Payne, and I will be reflecting on my research on romantic relationships in adolescence. My project overview and methods. So, why I chose this topic is I just find it interesting as teenagers. We were still figuring out who we were as individuals, yet we still entangled ourselves into relationships full of complications of someone else. So ultimately, I chose this topic to explore how our first relationships as adolescents affects our development. So I conducted two personal interviews, pre-written interview questions, and then audio recorded the sessions, transcribed and summarized to review and reflect. So interview one, my relationship with them is that they're my sister, she's 29, and that relationship she'll be referencing, she was dating them between 17 and 18. She's now married to someone else that is not the person she'll be reflecting on. Number two, my relationship with them is that they're my boyfriend. He's 19. He'll be reflecting on a few relationships that happened between 14 and 17, but he is now in a 2-year relationship. Some kind of key topics that I based my questions around were the framework, which is the interview context of who they are, and then conflict sources, conflict modeling, identity and roles, emotional management, external factors, impact, and reflection on the effect. So, starting off with sources of conflict, the question I asked was, what were the primary sources of tension or conflict in your relationships? Interview one said emotional instability and mental health struggles were primary sources, as well as social competition. So, her undiagnosed OCD led to overthinking and people pleasing. Her partner's depression and parents' messy divorce created emotional instability. And every other girl in her theater group liked him, and he kind of welcomed that, in her words. And so that also created this social competition and pressure. Interview two mentioned immaturity and poor emotional regulation. He said that his early relationships were more performative, a fun idea, or a label rather than a meaningful bond. He said it lacked communication skills and emotional awareness, leading to impulsive reactions and hostility. Both conflicts stemmed from poor emotional regulation and communication. One struggle involved over responsibility and people pleasing tendencies, while two's involved avoidance and impulsivity. Next up is family modeling. My question was, were conflicts handled similarly in your childhood home? Interview one mentioned that she mirrored her family's dynamics. So, in an ADHD household, uncomfortable conversations were often avoided until tensions exploded. Interview two, his family handled conflict differently, but with the same outcome. So, his issues were ignored until they exploded or led to silent treatment, making open communication feel unsafe or leading him to avoid disagreements. So both showed family conflict patterns affecting their romantic relationships, but one internalized the emotional buildup, and the two adopted that withdrawal and silence. I think that this is a good example to reference Bandura's theory of learning, social learning, that adolescents often replicate emotional behaviors experienced from home. Next is identity and roles. The question I asked was, did you feel pressure to change in relationships and did it affect your identity? Interviews one's response said that she prioritized her partner's needs over her own. She described herself as a people pleaser, prioritizing her partner's emotional needs and fragile mental state, which led her to hide her own feelings to avoid upsetting him. She felt less sure of her identity during the relationship, but grew more assertive afterwards. Interview two created different versions of himself to fit expectations with friends and romantic partners. He talks about how it took a toll on the perception of himself. The comparison I found between the two is both experienced identity shifting to fit others' expectations and that social pressure. So her transformation after leaving the relationship reflects successful identity consolidation, while he mentioned how his current relationship uh, helped him be secure in his own self, but that his previous ones did not impact that um, positively. I think that this reflects Erickson's stage of identity versus role confusion. That identity shifting to meet external expectations happens during this time of adolescence. Emotional management. So, did your emotions feel more extreme back then, and was it hard to step back? Interview one response was that emotional highs and lows were extreme. So, doing right by people and being kind to everyone was super ingrained. So to kick him to the curb in his lowest moment seemed bad, especially with her relationship OCD. that played a huge part in that. And she said that she felt embarrassed to bring up, and I quote, red flaggy things to family because I couldn't justify why I was remaining in the situation. Interview two, emotions were harder to manage, especially due to lack of emotional skills taught in childhood. So his emotional highs and lows were harder to manage back then, especially when he was already struggling mentally. He stated that he stayed in relationships longer than he should have because negative family dynamics left him craving appreciation, making even toxic relationships feel rewarding. So limited emotional skills slash early family dynamics made it difficult to step back for both of them. Number one, stayed in her relationship out of guilt and moral obligation, while two remained due to a need for validation from partners. Internal factors impact. So, did movies, media, or peer influence you expectations or influence your expectations in relationships? So, interview one, pursued a relationship largely due to social pressure, like friends discussing crushes and feeling like she needed to have one. She said her sexuality was severely repressed due to her unknown bisexuality. So, without the external peer pressure, she claimed that she might not have pursued the relationship at all. Interview two says that peers and media were both influential. Media created anxiety about expected girlfriend behavior and the expectations of him to his girlfriend, and he once was manipulated and pressured by his friend into dating her. Comparison, external forces played a key role in initiating both early romantic relationships. Number one acted due to peer pressure and social norms, while two was influenced both from media and peer manipulation, which shaped his anxieties and decisions. Reflection and impacts. My question here is, how did early relationships shape your ability to form healthier ones later? Interview one, she said her early relationship experience was a double-edged sword. I really like this quote. She mentioned that they were painful but instructive. Early mistakes prevented worse outcomes later, and they led her to the healthy, committed relationship she is in today. Interview two said they caused more harm than good, built unhealthy coping tendencies like emotional withdrawal, but finding the positive, he said that he had personal growth, learning to recognize unhealthy behaviors that he previously overlooked. And I asked what brought him to create a healthy relationship today. And he said that my relationship works because both of us are committed to addressing challenges and resolving conflicts together. So the comparison between these two are both early experiences shaped their ability to form healthy partnerships. One described her experience as a double-edged sword, which was painful but instructive, and two viewed them more damaging, building unhealthy coping tendencies, but ultimately providing growth by helping him recognize and repair his behaviors. He also said that those relationships led him to his partner today. So, key themes, the influences on development guide their behaviors, shape their sense of self, and affect how they navigate relationships. So, as they explored their identity, they fell back on family modeling and peer influence. I think that emotional regulation also plays a huge part while as they manage intense emotions, and I think it affects the stability of the relationship as well as long-term impact. So, although initial negative patterns, they can ultimately be developed into skills and noticing past things and correcting them in the future. So, kind of an overview, the key takeaways: family modeling, both modeled how to handle conflict from family systems; emotional regulation, both lacked regulation skills in adolescence; identity development, both struggled with authenticity in relationships; peer influence, social validation strongly influenced dating behavior, and long-term impact. Early relationships served as emotional training grounds. My takeaway is that I think the way you are raised influences how you navigate relationships in adolescence. Positively or negatively, it can shape the quality of your adult relationship. So I think it is crucial to model healthy relationships and demonstrate strong emotional regulation within the home and your parenting. My project reflection, some challenges that I found, they included discussing sensitive topics and translating those nuanced experiences into clear, organized themes for the presentation. Ultimately, what went well was that the interviews went well and provided honest and detailed insights into adolescent relationships, which made it easy for me to identify patterns and link them to course theories. So, anyways, thank you so much for listening. And yeah.